Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining our ADB Institute featured speaker seminar. Today, we are very honored to have Professor Thakur Powdyel um, speaking to us. He has a long list of achievements that I won't have time to read completely, but I will just say that he's a former Minister of Education in Bhutan, a Gusi Peace Laureate, and his book, My Green School, which is the basis of his talk today, has been translated to 19 major languages. Before I hand over the speaker to Professor Powdell, if you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A box, and I will get to them as much as I can throughout this hour. So please don't wait until the end before you write your question, because we want to get them early so we can enrich the discussion. So with that, I would like to hand over to Professor Powdell. Please, the floor is yours.
Zangpo, konnichiwa, and greetings from Bhutan to my esteemed members of the audience, wherever you are in the world. If there's anyone at all out there, with the kind permission of the Honorable Moderator, Dr. Daniel, I would like to begin with a little prayer. And all of us can join in this 1-minute prayer for the victims and their families involved in the recent Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad. 1 minute, please. To begin with, I would like to pay my tributes to the founders, the visionaries, who envisioned the founding of this great institution, the Asian Development Bank, dedicated to solving complex challenges together. Thanks to the ADB and its efforts, thanks to the Asian Development Bank Institute and its efforts, the world is a better place. The world has benefited from that vision and from those efforts over the years. And today, I'm humbly privileged to participate in this conversation, mainly because of the very kind invitation of the Asian Development Bank Institute. And I would like to hope that we will have this hour or so meaningfully utilized. Today, the theme of our conversation is My Green School, an outline for human and societal flourishing. To set this theme in context, I would like to submit that my green school actually is born from the seeds sown by the great fourth king of Bhutan, His Majesty Dugyalpo Jigme Singye Wangchuk, when he proclaimed that gross national happiness is more important than gross domestic product. There are some 4.5 decades ago, and today the world is gradually tending towards this unique, sustainable vision of development. Gross national happiness as a development pathway has actually been something like a North Star for Bhutan. And my green school takes its birth from that seed, gross national happiness, that sustainable, holistic vision of development. It is based on the premise that if a nation has a big vision, the subsystems of that nation ought to be able to appreciate, understand, and advance that vision. And education anywhere in the world is the most important subsystem of that nation. And in Bhutan, we decided that education being the most important instrument for human and societal flourishing, the Ministry of Education ought to do its part in paving the way for a system of education that befits that big vision of the country, gross national happiness. So, in 2009, we launched a nationwide educational reform initiative. We call it Educating for Gross National Happiness. And the strategy that we adopted to implement this program of Educating for Gross National Happiness is called Nurturing Green Schools. Green schools as a means to an end. The end is supposed to be Green Bhutan. So, green schools for Green Bhutan. I have to explain what we mean by green or greenery. Green is a color, but more importantly, green is a metaphor. It is a metaphor for anything and everything that supports and sustains life. And by life, we mean all life: human life, animal life, plant life, bird life, life in the sea, life on land, life in the sky, and life everywhere in between. So anything that supports and sustains life in its infinite variety is green. So we can have a green school, we can have a green college, a green university, a green economy, a green institution, a green organization, green planning, green architecture, green diplomacy, green legislature, green minds, green hearts, green outlook, green orientation. So, green is anything and everything that supports life and sustains life in its infinite variety. So, why not a green school? Why not a green college? Why not a green university? Why not a green society? Why not a green nation, a green world? So, my green school has 8 elements. A green school has to awaken at least 8 levels of consciousness in our scheme of things. And this orientation towards greenery, orientation towards life, orientation towards Mother Nature, our planet Earth, is actually defined by this holistic idea of green or greenery. After all, what are those elements that constitute our life? What are these fundamental, basic elements that make us who we are? Are we just this body, a combination of chemicals, atoms, and neutrons? Or is there more to our life than simply a combination of these elements in a certain proportion and balance? In the same way, because we individuals make the society, make the nation, make the world, what are the elements that constitute the society, that constitute the nation, that constitute the world? Is it just the material dimension, just the physical dimension, the objective dimension that the eyes can see and the mind can register? Or is there something more to it? What constitutes? What are those important elements that come to our mind when we think of the society, when we think of the nations, the country, the world? Is it just the physical territory, the geographical boundaries, the milestones, the physical demarcations, the government, those territories, the vegetation, the highs and the lows, the points and the counterpoints, what the eyes can see, the roads, the institutions? Are these the only things that constitute a nation? Is there an inner life behind the outer life that we can see? What is it? So, when we think of an institution, a school, a college, a university, an institute like the ADBIs. What is it that constitutes these institutions? Does it have an inner life, the vital life that animates and keeps it going from day to day, month to month, year to year, from the here and the now to the beyond? That's why, since education is the most important preoccupation of our nations, in our schools, colleges, and universities, in our institutions of learning, we have the most precious segment of the population, our boys and girls, our young men and women, the most highly qualified people in any society are in our institutions, in our research centers, like the ADBIC. And young men and women, learners, spend a large amount of their time in the most formative, consequential period of their life. And we build schools, institutions, universities like nobody's business. There must be a bigger reason than simply fulfilling our political commitment. There ought to be a big reason, a big purpose to setting up in institutions like the ADB has. Ideas for developing Asia and the Pacific. In the same way, when we collect these most precious segment of the population, our children, boys and girls, young men and women, and keep them in our places of learning for an extended period of time, 15 years, 20 years. These are very, very precious periods of anybody's lives. Education ought to have a bigger purpose. It ought to look beyond degrees and diplomas and certificates, completion of a certain prescribed course. So, what happens in our schools and institutions? Behind the walls, on the corridors, in our classrooms, in our offices, in our walkways, in our meeting halls, inside those beautiful buildings, what happens? What is it that is going on? What ideas circulate there? See, are we able to capture the most important elements that matter to us as the human of the species? A member, a microcosm that shares this planet Earth with the bigger macrocosm of Mother Nature, of humanity. See. So, it is important, I believe, in my humble scheme of things, to take into account what actually constitutes authentic learning, genuine learning, what makes meaning, what gives purpose, what is worthwhile. See, when we sit in the class, in a training institution for many hours, many weeks and months and years, what ought to be happening to individuals, to their hearts, to their minds? Incidentally, I still believe that education is the only sector of public service that has ever been called the noble sector. No other sector, not even health, has ever been called the noble sector. But education has. Some great minds, some visionaries in the past described education as the noble sector. All learning is under the auspices of the noble sector. So, education is supposed to be a means to help young men and women cultivate the nobility of their mind, cultivate the nobility of their heart, thereby helping them cultivate the nobility of their action. So, you can imagine when the head and the heart and the hands are engaged on the principle of nobility, what kind of society will emerge? What kind of institutions will emerge? What kind of nation will emerge? And because the world is constituted by nations, what kind of world will emerge if we approach education or learning on the principle of nobility. So, my green school is built around 8 levels of consciousness. How do we awaken these levels of consciousness? What is important for our life? What is important for us as a member of the human family, as a microcosm of the bigger macrocosm of this planet, this Mother Earth? So, the very first element of my green school, the very first circle of the mandala of learning, in Bhutan we call it Sherik Mandala. Sherik by uh, by definition is deep learning. So there's so much going on in the world in the name of education, but not all of that has anything to do with education. Some of it must be very much opposed to what education ought to be like. See? So Sherik means deep learning. Sherik means authentic learning, genuine, purposeful, worthwhile learning. So this mandala that is made up of 8 levels of consciousness, in fact, begin with the very first, the most obvious relationship between us, the human of the species, and our planet Earth. So the first circle that makes a green school is called natural greenery. And this is so important because today we are talking about global warming. We talk about climate change and we are panicking. Some parts of the world are becoming uninhabitable. See. Sea levels are rising. Snow on the mountains is melting very rapidly. Some of the countries are becoming, in fact, getting submerged. The air is becoming unbreathable in many parts of the world. Water is becoming undrinkable, see, and life is becoming unviable, see. That is why, that is why it is important for us, the most critical players in this human nature relationship, to understand how we relate to this planet. I feel this is where education must begin. All learning must begin. Very often we begin on the wrong end, see. Something totally unconnected or disconnected from life. If we take care of this planet, if we take care of Mother Nature, if we uphold the integrity of Mother Nature, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the soil, the earth on which we walk, the vegetation that supplies oxygen to us, I feel Mother Nature will look after us. We don't have to panic. We don't have to run helter skelter, confused, not knowing whether our children are able to breathe fresh air 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now. See, animals, birds, plants will also be looked after. So, the first element of my green school, if we can have the first circle, the first element of my green school actually has got to do with our ability, humans' sensibility, our sensitivity, our thoughtfulness, our mindfulness that relates us to Mother Nature, our planet Earth. In Bhutan, we look at Mother Nature as the home of the gods, home of the spirits, the sentinels of Mother Nature, our rivers, our mountains, our valleys, our trees, our rocks, the soil, every mountain pass. All these, the trees, are supposed to be the home of, the abode of the spirits, the gods and goddesses. So, this reverential relationship between us, the human of the species, and Mother Nature is what will sustain us for years to come. The fourth king, His Majesty Dugyalpo Jigme Singh Wangchuk, saw it some 45 years ago, 50 years ago, when, even as the youngest monarch in the world then, 16 going on 17, realized that a day will come when Mother Nature will hit back in response to the irresponsible, mindless, thoughtless actions of human beings who see Mother Nature as a resource, an economic, physical, material resource, and nothing else. And this exploitative, highly utilitarian, highly reductionistic orientation of human beings to look at Mother Nature as a source of revenue and nothing more, see, has brought us to the level that we are in today, see. Global warming, climate change. This is not something out there, see, and for which we are not responsible, but we are, see. Human action today, see, the way some countries are moving forward, wanting to become the first to get to the unexplored areas, to cut down the trees. I'm told even Amazon is not being spared, see, by some of the so-called developers. They call it development, but it is, in fact, quite the opposite of development. If it does not save life, if it doesn't look after the well-being of human beings, our planet Earth, vegetation, animals, birds, we are not the only ones who inhabit this earth. There are a multiple variety of beings, life forms, who share this Mother Earth and call it our home, see, their home, see. So to think that we can do anything and everything, we can play around with Mother Nature, see, planet Earth, is totally wrong, irresponsible, and thoughtless. And if human activity goes on at the rate at which it's going on at the moment, a time will come when we will suffer greater misfortune and disaster. We are already told that there's a we have to we have to read the writing on the wall. Code red, some people say. So that's why in our institutions, in our schools, colleges, and in our planning, in governance, in management, in administration, in our planning, this fundamental relationship between us, the human and the species, and Mother Nature, and the need for a more respectful, more mindful relationship ought to be emphasized. So for me, when we start a school or a college or university, the learners ought to understand that once this relationship is snapped, once it fractures, all our achievements, all the other milestones that we cross will not be really worthwhile, see, will not be very fruitful or beneficial, see. So that is why the first element of my green school is natural, ecological greenery, see. That will save us. And it is quite the reverse of the dominant, exploitative GDP view of things. And this is what is going to bring us to a point of no return if we are not mindful. See. The wisdom of the world, the scholarship of our institutions, the resources that we have in our places of learning ought to be marshaled and enlisted to appreciating this very important, very important relationship. So here we are. So this way we ought to begin our ability to discover and honor the vital link with all the life forms that sustain us and that secure our well-being. Take care of Mother Nature, and Mother Nature will take care of us. Nothing is more urgent today than this appreciation of this relationship, respect for this relationship. It has to be not exploitation, but reverence, respect, and honor. And we move on. The second very important element of my green school This level of consciousness that we need to awaken is social greenery. By social greenery, we mean cultivation of that positive energy, cultivation of goodwill, our ability to manifest our gifts as the human of the species. We are social beings. When we come to a place of learning, a school, college, or university, we bring not only our bodies and our names and identities, we bring the totality of us, the entire self that make us who we are, our beliefs, our values, our culture from our homes, our upbringing, our training, our values, our faith, our belief, our worldviews. And when we come to a place of learning, so many things happen. We share the same space. We look at the same sky. We view the same horizon far, far in the distance. We breathe the same air. We walk on the same space, share the same facilities, your library, your walkways, your gardens, your footpaths, professors, the learning, all these. And people meet in a place of learning, others who they have never met before. See. They build friendship. They, they build bridges. They become problem solvers. And they build trust. They build harmony. And young people who are able to build friendship in institutions of learning, in which they are there for a long, long period of time, such people who are able to build friendship, such people who are able to solve problems, people who are able to build bridges, will also be bridge builders. They will be problem solvers. They will be people who will release good energy, positive energy to the society when they graduate from our schools, colleges, and universities. This is a very important function of places of learning. It is not just completing the syllabus, pay the fees, get a certificate. There is not learning. Learning ought to engage us at a human level, at a deep, deep core of what makes us who we are. See, are we able to release positive energy? Are we really able to release our ability to create, to build, to harmonize? Are we able to leave the world a better place? Are we able to create a good class? A class that is animated, that is defined by goodwill, positive energy. What kind of energies are circulating in our institutions, in our corridors, in our classrooms, in our meeting halls, in our research centers? What energies? Are they positive energies or are they highly competitive energies? Cutthroat race, so getting the better of the others, moving ahead of everybody else. Are we learning cooperation? Are we learning to appreciate diversity? Are we learning to become better human beings? Are we able to evolve as human beings? We may be great academic achievers, standing first all the time, see, getting 100%, see, and getting awards. But sometimes some of the greatest achievers in academics could also be very lonely people, see. That's why today there's so many people who are not able to look after themselves. They feel that life is too hard. I cannot make friendship with anybody. I have no friends. I'm a loner. See. They are not able to build friendship. They are not able to work together with the others. They are not able to work in a team. See. And ultimately, they feel that the doors are shut. I have nowhere to go. See. I can't succeed. See. So they go to a point where they decide that death is a better option than life. And it is so unfortunate that a lot of our young people around the world are ending their lives because they see no light at the end of the tunnel. They have not learned how to live together. They have not learned to cultivate their humanity, their goodness. Life is so precious. Life is so precious. In my country, Bhutan, we call human beings Milu Rinpoche. Milu Rinpoche. All life is precious, but human life is the most precious of all. See. And this world is the consequence of human gifts, the ability to imagine, the ability to create, the ability to build. See. And human beings ought to be able to use that ability, those blessings, those precious gifts as the human of the species to build a better classroom, to build a better institution, to build a better society, a better nation, and a better world. This is social greenery, cultivating the humanity of the humans, cultivating the the ability to create positive energy, the ability to create goodwill, friendship, the ability to extend the range of our lives. This is social greenery. And do our institutions awaken this ability when our learners stay with us for a long, long time? See, are our institutions contributing to the sum total of the goodness in the society, the sum total of goodness in our nations, and thereby the sum total of goodness in the world? See, it begins with us. It begins with our institutions. It begins with our learners. So this is what I mean by social greenery. We have to cultivate that social greenery, awakened minds. Let's move on. I think, yes, we may be running out of time. So cultural greenery, culture is so important. All of us are the product of culture. See, do our institutions, in fact, care for our roots, our identities? Do they awaken that belief in our foundations? Where did we come to? How did we come to be the way we are? See, culture is the way we are. Culture is the way we proclaim who we are. The way we speak, the way we dress, the way we eat, the way we conduct ourselves, our songs, our dances, our customs, our costumes, our sports, our games, our art, our architecture, the way we prepare our food, the way we prepare our drinks, the way we celebrate birthdays and marriages, death rituals, how we observe death rituals. What is our worldview? Our architecture, our art, our songs, our dances, the way we respect each other, see, the way we uphold values, see, our principles. So culture has two dimensions, the outer dimension and the inner, the tangible and the intangible dimensions. And our ability to appreciate each other, our ability to appreciate goodness, our ability to appreciate goodness in others, our ability to cultivate refinement, our ability to show gracefulness. Culture is so important. Culture reminds us of our roots. Of culture tells us about where we belong. How did we come to be the way we are? See, our uniqueness. Today, thanks to IT and thanks to technology, the whole world is becoming standardized. The nuances, the points and the counterpoints, the highs and the lows, the rise and fall, the colors, the diversity, these are becoming standardized. See. But culture is what makes us who we are. For example, the Japanese culture, see, so unique, over 1,000 years. The accumulation of those beliefs and practices have actually distilled into our cultures. That's why we call Japanese culture, see. And we're so proud of it. We call Bhutanese culture, see. We're so proud of it, see. So, our young men and women, as good as they must be in AI and chat GPT and technology, they must also know where they come from, see, where they belong, see. So cultural greenery. Are we able to awaken in our places of learning this very important element of learning, the sense of who we are, our sense? And culture gives us self-respect. Culture gives us our identity. Culture builds our integrity. See. A society without culture or cultures becomes a valley of dry bones. See. And culture gives us that sense of confidence, sense of self-respect, sense of identity, and integrity. Young people today, they're all over the place. So the sense of pride, the sense of identity, the sense of confidence, the sense of the person that we are. See, this is so very important. I don't. Is there an alert to me? So at this point in time, if there's any question, I can take those before we move on. So we have awakened at least three levels of consciousness: the natural, the social, and the cultural levels that we expect our educational institutions, places for learning, must awaken in the learners.
Thank
Because
you,
this is what the
Professor
society.
Powdyel.
Sorry.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. So this is very important. Otherwise, today, materialism, see, commodities, physical quantities dominate our lives. We do not look inwards. So looking inward is so very important. The second Secretary General of the United Nations, Dag Hammarskjöld, said, "The longest journey is the journey inward." So culture tells us, invites us to travel inward, to to know who we are. See, the third element that we must awaken in learning is the intellectual element, or the intellectual greenery. See, and what is this intellect? What is the mind? See, the mind is the home of ideas. How did the world come to be the way it is today? See, it is actually the consequence of those the march of ideas. How did how did those great ideas, the consequential ideas of science, mathematics, humanities, philosophy, the ideas in the different fields of human investigation, how did they shape the world? See? The great ideas of gravity, thermodynamics. How did all these ideas, the, the scientists, the humanists, the spiritualists, intellectuals, thinkers, philosophers, artists, dreamers, and creators, how did they envision the world? What ideas went into the making of the world? How did we develop the ideas that our architecture must be this way? See? How did we learn to organize our society? How did we learn to form the governments? How did we learn to run the society? All these are the function of the human mind. So, in our schools, places of learning, do we awaken those ideas? Do we have time? Or are we too busy to complete the syllabus and move on? See, because time is only so much and no more. See, we must have time in our institutions to reflect on how the human race came to be where it is now. See, how our societies came to be the way they are. See, how the world has come to be the way we are. See, the founding of the United Nations organization, the founding of the Asian Development Bank, the institute here. See, all these are a function of the working of the human mind. Somebody decided that, yes, this is what the world needs, is going to need. See, that's why this intellectual greenery is so very important. We have to keep our minds open to new ideas, innovations, enterprise, appreciate discoveries, appreciate inventions in diverse fields, but at the same time also remember how ideas that came before have shaped global thinking, shaped the march of human beings, the march of humanity, the march of our nations, the march of communities. So, intellectual greenery. Do we have time in our institutions to actually awaken our intellectual consciousness, or are we just skimming on the surface, moving on? Because this is the 21st century, we must go very fast, otherwise we're going to be left behind. So sometimes our priorities are so lopsided. As advanced as we want to be, at the same time, we have to also remember what has brought us here. See, what great inventions, the working of the human mind, the genius of the human race, the marvels of the mind of human beings. What have they done? See, otherwise we feel that, oh, today, 21st century, we are the smartest people, we have done everything. See, we don't look back, see, to acknowledge how we came to be where we are today. See, so academic greenery. The next one, of course, is academic greenery. So very important. Now we are ready to open the book on chapter 1. See, page 1. See, so academic greenery has got to do with our ability to just discover the nature of the different disciplines that have come to dominate our academic institutions. We have been teaching mathematics for forever, physics forever, literature forever, history, geography. See, these are great continents of ideas: the continent of mathematics, the continent of history, the continent of geography, IT, music, the continent of philosophy, the continent of chemistry and biology, all the sciences. These academic disciplines are there in our curriculum, not simply because this has been a practice forever, but there ought to be reasons. So when we teach physics, I think it's important for us not only to understand the formulas and formulae, and then of course to use those to solve problems, but real learning, authentic learning actually involves appreciating the nature of those disciplines. Why is physics physics and not chemistry? See? What makes literature literature and not language? What is geography? What is mathematical about mathematics? What is geographical about geography? Historical about history? See? What is the nature of these disciplines? In our learning, a time should come in our curriculum, in our classrooms, in our discussions, when we are able to have a discourse, reflect on the nature of these disciplines. Why is mathematics mathematics? Why did some people in the past decide to package knowledge in a certain way and call it physics? Physics is a branch of knowledge after all, see. But somebody decided to package knowledge in a certain way and give it a name, physics. Somebody decided to package knowledge in a certain way and call it mathematics. After all, it's a branch of knowledge. See, somebody decided to package knowledge in a certain way, call it literature. See, why did they do that? See? Why did they not lump everything together? See, or break it down even further? See, so our learning, our institutions must be able to awaken this level of understanding of the nature of learning. See. Then the society becomes richer, it becomes wiser, it becomes powerful, it becomes knowledgeable. See. And that is a good society. See. That is a good institution. That becomes a good nation and a good world. See. Our academic institutions have been doing less than what they ought to be doing. See. We have no time. See. We just run. See. We race through our syllabi and curriculum. See. The next very important element is aesthetic greenery. Aesthetics, and I don't have anything to say about aesthetics, and I'm speaking to this very awakened, enlightened audience, including many Japanese. Aesthetics, appreciation of beauty, cultivation of beauty, goodness, grace, tastefulness, aesthetics. Today, it is sad that we do not have time in our institutions to talk about aesthetics. Aesthetics, especially now, is so important because our young men and women are exposed to those very powerful, aggressive images that come to them from through the mobile screen, through modern technology, IT, AI, chat GPT. And what happens is that with all the good that technology does, being enslaved to technology, being bonded to technology, robs us of our individuality, of the integrity of our God-given gift to think, to imagine, to create. We are happy with the images that come to us, that shoot up from the screen, see, and we get excited, see, and we get carried away, see. And these images are so powerful. With all the good that they do, these images can also suck the soul out of young people, see. And you have seen already how many young people are committing suicide, see, because of the power of those images that come to them, over which they cannot control. Even though we teach media literacy, however, that is not adequate, see. We have to be able to provide alternative pathways to help young people look into themselves, appreciate themselves as creators. So instead of receivers of somebody else's creation, young people can be creators. And when young people become creators, they have a better sense of themselves. They celebrate themselves. They honor themselves. They uphold their integrity. They uphold their humanity. They have a better sense of who they are. See. There will be fewer people committing suicide. See. There will be fewer people who will be enslaved by those negative images that float in front of their eyes. See. They swim in front of their eyes. So that's why aesthetic greenery has got to do with our ability to be makers, to be builders. Let young people do their drawing. It may not be perfect, but if they're able to do some artwork, create music, walk into the garden, appreciate a good dress, be able to speak properly, see, be able to arrange the table well, see, sit across across the table with others and conduct themselves gracefully. Education has many consequences or many expectations, but an educated person shows at least two important qualities. An educated person should be able to learn usefulness. Whatever learning happens in the school, college, university, or learning centers, this learning must be useful to himself or herself, useful to the family, useful to the society, to the nation, to the world at large. So usefulness is an extremely important part of learning. Whatever I learn, whether it's physics or maths or IT, music, sports, this has to have usefulness. But usefulness is not adequate. It is not everything. Even an equipment, a machine has usefulness. An educated person must manifest gracefulness. Gracefulness. So usefulness and gracefulness. Gracefulness in the way one conducts himself or herself, in the way one relates to others, in the way one carries oneself. See, gracefulness. In the way one appreciates an object of art. See, authentic, genuine art, genuine good things, genuine things of beauty. What a beautiful dress. Beautiful, genuine beauty, genuine grace, genuine objects, beautiful things, objects of art. Walk into nature, see, and appreciate that, see. Build them, build them. Extend the range of one's life. If that hobby, if that ability to appreciate good things, beautiful things, in fact, is enhanced, is awakened, then a lot of the junk that young people surround themselves with will be seen as useless. It becomes a kind of a barrier to their ability to appreciate life, to their ability to appreciate this mother nature, the stars, the smells, the sights, and the sounds available in the wide field of our planet Earth. So, do we have opportunities to talk about these in our places of learning? The next one is very important as well. Spiritual greenery, I call it spiritual greenery. And spiritual greenery, by the way, I have to submit that spirituality has got nothing to do with religion or religiosity. Spirituality is higher than religion or religiosity. Spirituality is very liberating. Spirituality is sublime. It is higher than often what religion does. Religion becomes very restrictive. Religion or religiosity often leads to bigotry. It leads to making boundaries, leads to setting limits. But spirituality liberates, it enhances, it awakens, it elevates individuals. One may not be religious, but one could be highly spiritual. And being spiritual is cultivating that ability to tend towards what is ennobling, what is inspiring, what is elevating. When you keep a flower by the windowsill, the flower tends towards the sun and it is able to fulfill the promise inherent in the seed of the flower seed. The seed culminates in the flower seed, but it needs some energy. It tends towards the sun to receive energy to find its ultimate manifestations, ultimate fullness. In the same way, we human beings ought to tend towards those positive energies, those positive objects, positive ideas, positive idols to make us fuller, to make us more complete, to make us more perfect. So, spiritual greenery is cultivating that ability to rise above our limited self. As we are not perfect. I am not. Maybe you are. See. As we are not perfect. As we are not full. See. As we are not complete. But when we tend towards objects of fullness, objects of completion, objects of full realization, by that much, we also become fuller. We also become better realized. We achieve a higher sense of our potential possibilities. So spiritual greenery has got to do with them. That impulse in us to think beyond, to tend towards positive energies, positive things. These could be our elders. These could be our teachers. This could be our people, idols who we honor, worship. It could be an idea. It could be an object of nature, but something that elevates us, something that inspires, ennobles us, edifies us. Today, what do our young people look up to? See, what are their idols? See, what are their role models? See, who do they look up to? See, do these role models allow them, allow young people to find greater fulfillment, greater self actualization? Are they able to celebrate those possibilities? So I feel it's important to engage this level of consciousness, aesthetic consciousness. And finally, we have ethical or moral greenery. This level of consciousness is extremely important. So, moral or ethical greenery has got to do with our ability to make distinctions between important categories of values. And what are these values that make us who we are? These values that set us apart as the human of the species as compared to other species which are not humans, which are not human or human species. And what are these? What are these values? As the human of the species, we have this exclusive or distinctive ability to make distinctions between truth and falsehood, truth and untruth. Somehow, it has been built into our genes. It is a gift that we have received. Only human beings have this ability, this gift to make a distinction between what is true as opposed to what is untrue or false. We have a sense. Somehow we can sense whichever place in the world we are in. See, despite all the variations, despite all the distinctions, uniqueness amongst people, among societies, there are certain fundamental things, basic things that characterize us at the most common level. See, we have this ability to distinguish between truth as opposed to what is untruth or false, truth as opposed to untruth, good as opposed to evil or bad, and right as opposed to wrong. Only human beings have this ability to make these distinctions, truth as opposed to untruth, right as opposed to wrong or evil, and good as opposed to bad. So, these are distinctions that only human beings can make. Do we have in our classrooms, in our discussions, opportunities to engage young people on these very important on themes? Do we challenge them with these very important dilemmas, these important foundations, these important facts of life? See? Because if young people are not able to make these fine distinctions, a day will come when they become leaders, CEOs, company heads, institution heads. They will not be able to say right from wrong, good from bad, truth from falsehood. That's why companies collapse, corporations collapse. We need leaders who are able to make these distinctions. And if we have leaders around the world who are able to make these distinctions, imagine the quality of the quality of the world. See, the quality of the world would be different. See, there'll be no wars, there'll be no fights, there'll be no inequities. It will be a harmonious world. It will be a good world. It will be a peaceful world. So my submission is that if our young people, our institutions are engaged in cultivating these levels of consciousness, our education will have served its purpose. Our learning will have become meaningful and purposeful and worthwhile. It will make the world a better place. So our boys and girls, young men and women who are exposed to this kind of education will make the world a better place, the society a better place. And this Mother Nature will have been served better. See, this is my green school. Thank you. Thank you so much. I apologize
Yeah.
for monopolizing all the time and not leaving any for my very esteemed audience, but also like to thank all of you in the Asian Development Bank Institute for your very kind invitation to participate in this conversation. And wonderful to see my old friend and student, Dr. Dil Raut, and I'm sure there are others, and Dr. Daniel and Miss um, yes, Miyuki for all the
Excuse
support and help. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes.